Welcome back to the final round. We're less than 2 months away from the 2020 presidential election. We got some news out today on President Trump's re-election campaign. Now, Bloomberg reporting that he has discussed spending up to $100 million of his own money on the campaign. And Rick Newman, we don't have the August fundraising figures from the Trump campaign yet, but we know it was record-setting for Biden. It sounds like maybe President Trump, obviously under a tremendous amount of pressure here, but what do you think the likelihood is that he'll actually spend up to $100 million of his own money on his reelection campaign?
I don't think it's likely. Trump himself did not put this out there. Bloomberg reported it from people on the campaigns, and this comes amid other evidence that the Trump reelection campaign in the associated Republican organizations are sort of falling behind on fundraising. They had a huge advantage over Biden because they were just raising money since the beginning of 2019 and sitting on it, whereas Biden was competing against 20-something other candidates, and his campaign, according to Biden himself, was all but broke when he finally got to the point where it looked like he clinched the nomination. Biden's been raking it in since then. He's got a ton of money. Apparently, Trump has been falling behind, but also spending a ton of money. So when a campaign will not tell you how much they raise in a given month, that's not usually a good sign. Usually they tell you right away, as soon as the month is over, what their fundraising haul was. And here we are 8 days into September, and the Trump campaign hasn't said how it did in August. So it probably didn't do well, which has led to these discussions about what if we need to come up with $100 million, in the last few weeks of the campaign, would Trump himself kick it in? So when asked about it today, Trump said, sure, I would, like he's a big spender and who wouldn't, but he did not like funding his own campaign in 2016. And a sitting president running for re-election should have a huge fundraising advantage. That person should not have to be putting his own money into the campaign coffers.
Well, and Rick, it's interesting because you mentioned all the spending that the Trump campaign has done over the last several months and really over the last, year or so. And it clearly hasn't paid off. We have President Trump, he's starting to fall. He's trailing in most of the most recent national poll numbers that we've gotten. And we compare what the Trump campaign has done to what the Biden campaign has done over the last several months. And Biden has clearly seen some success in his virtual events. We know that they're very cost effective. They don't cost much. It's not that time consuming. They're about 90 minutes or less. So I wonder whether or not President Trump could maybe embrace this strategy just a little bit more.
I would guess no, for a couple of reasons. First of all, it would be an admission that Trump's own methodology, his own means of raising money from all his rich friends and everybody else who supposedly is behind this campaign, that it's not working. And imagine Trump copying something sleepy Joe Biden is doing. I mean, how sleepy would Trump have to be if he's copying sleepy Joe Biden? And number two, the Trump campaign, they seem to think they've got it. If you have to change your methods for something as crucial as fundraising within the last 2 months of the campaign, something is crucially wrong. So I think they're going to stick to their guns. What they probably are going to change, in fact, there is evidence they already have, is just they're going to spend less on certain things. They've spent a lot, apparently, on overhead, including the way paying for mailing lists and paying a lot of money to try to recruit donors. That's the part of the Trump fundraising campaign that doesn't seem to be working. And it's possible maybe he's just not getting those small dollar donations that he got in 2016 when he did run a scrappier campaign and he seemed like an outsider. That's not really the case now.
Will be interesting when we do finally, hopefully, get those August fundraising numbers just to see what the Trump campaign was able to raise in the month of August.